My name's Dr. Fiona Ballard and I work as a lecturer at ACU, the Australian Catholic University. So what I'd like to talk to you today about is not just what is science, but where can science take you? So when we're thinking about science, we're thinking about what logical explanation can we make to make order of the world around us, the physical world and the biological world. So we can use science to logically explain everything that we can see, not only how our own body functions, but how the world functions and what else is out there in the universe. What causes things such as thunder and lightning. It also allows us to set questions that we can make experiments to try and answer. Things like, is there other intelligent life in the universe? How did life on Earth actually arise? How did it evolve? So these are questions that are currently under a lot of debate by scientists around the world. Other things that might interest you, particularly if you have an interest in the sea, there's a whole lot of deep trenches that have as yet been unexplored. So what sort of species are down there? And what can we learn from, as yet, the undiscovered species on our own planet? So why would you want to study science? Well, realistically, if you've got a curiosity or an interest in how anything works, anything in particular, science is a great way of finding out how to explain how these unknown things work. As well as another added bonus, there is a large potential range of careers that are available to you if you do study science. Many of these positions are actually currently in very high demand. So there's a wide range of positions that you may be interested in where you're pretty much guaranteed to get a job at the end of it, because these are areas where we do not have enough of these people currently. Sometimes you can choose to work in exciting environments. For example, if you're in marine biology, you may choose to be a diver and explore underneath the water. Every branch of science, however, has ongoing research. This is how the world furthers our knowledge, and because we live in an internet age, this knowledge is now readily available to everybody around the world. So exciting things, new things are discovered by research scientists every day. Let's have a look at some of the things that have already been discovered. So I've got some examples here. If, for example, you're interested in cars, you could combine your interest in motor cars with environmental science. You could be like Mr. Elon Musk. He was the gentleman who developed and released the Tesla Roadster. This is the first all-electric sports car that's gone into production. Now, why this is a good thing is that it doesn't produce any carbon dioxide emissions or greenhouse gases when the engine is running. Another thing you could do, if you're interested in brain functioning or cognitive behaviour or neuroscience, you could work with computer science people or robotics experts and attempt to produce robots that are learning to think like human beings do. So in last year, a group of researchers combined all of their latest knowledge and worked together to try and advance the ability of robots to think like humans do. If you're interested in how the human body works, and our human body is an absolutely fascinating organic machine, it's absolutely amazing the things that it can do. It can send electrochemical messages instantaneously almost throughout our body. We can get messages that we've touched something hot before we can even almost consciously register it. So our body is amazing in that it can do all of these things. So if you're interested in any aspect of how the body works, maybe you could work with genetic engineering technologists, and you could be one of the people who finds a way to treat a disease, such as scientists did to treat a particular type of cancer. What they do is they found a way to use antiviral therapy to target specifically these cells that are causing cancer or the type of leukemia. And all 5 people in the trial, whilst it was a very small initial trial, all 5 people after the therapy have no traces of cancer left. So this is a really exciting new potential opportunity. So a larger trial is now underway, and this therapy could potentially be used for other types of cancers. So we're living in a time where there's so much research, medical research going on. We could even be alive today when we can wipe out cancer. Wouldn't that be amazing? So here is an example of one of our immune system cells, the cytotoxic T cell. And do you get these pictures? No, so they won't see what I've got.
I'll get them later.
Okay, sorry folks. So in the picture here, I've got a orange cytotoxic T cell. This is our immune system cell that is able to be used with this antiviral therapy. And you can actually see a picture of it killing the pinky cancer cell. Can I turn it around? Okay. So they won't be able to see the video either. I want to show them. Oh, they can. Okay, good. Okay. So when you're doing research, quite often you'll have a lot of mistakes. You'll make errors that lead nowhere. But sometimes a mistake can actually produce quite an astounding outcome. This happened for one gentleman in Germany who was doing his PhD when he was looking at examining rat cells. And at one stage, he hadn't changed the broth, the nutrient broth that the cells grow in, between taking samples. So he noticed that an unusual membranous connection had grown between the cells. So when he repeated the experiment with the correct changing of the broth, those nanotubes disappeared. But whenever he didn't change the broth or stir them up, because the nanotubes are very delicate, they stayed there. Now, this was thought to be an artefact, but lots of research has been further investigated into this. And now we've seen that they exist between lots of our body cells, including liver cells and our neurons in our brain. So this is how the human immunodeficiency virus may be able to invade our immune system so easily, because it invades cells that are important in our body defences, and it may use these nanotubes to quickly go from one cell to another before they can be detected or destroyed. So now scientists are investigating ways to create artificial nanotubes made out of carbon so that they can deliver antivirus therapy against the human immunodeficiency virus. Another thing that has occurred, because these connections exist between neurons in the brain, scientists have postulated that perhaps this is a way that we might maintain consciousness, because these are very temporary types of connections because they're fragile. So if we hit our head, those connections would be temporarily broken. So because of this fact, and because of the fact that the nanotubes will regrow themselves and consciousness will return, some scientists have hypothesized that these nanotubes actually, between neurons in the brain, actually allow for consciousness to exist. Some more science research examples. If you're interested in astronomy, in the University of California, back in 2002, a group of scientists found the first star system that had a planet that was similar to a planet in our own solar system. It was a Jupiter-like planet. Since then, they've seen that binary stars, where we've got two suns orbiting each other, also contain planets. So there are large potential ranges of solar systems out there that could contain life. So maybe there is intelligent life out in the universe. Also back in 2002, there was a near miss with a very large asteroid coming close to hitting the Earth. So even though it was 450,000 kilometres away, that is, in astronomical terms, quite a close shave. So scientists have now been talking about ways to destroy these asteroids before they actually can impact with the Earth in future. So if you've ever thought it would be cool to have an invisibility cape like Harry Potter, have you wondered if it's possible? Well, it's well on the way. Much research is currently being undertaken to try and make objects appear invisible. Now, the way this is usually done is by bending light waves so that you bounce them around an object. So what is happening now, one example of this research, back in 2008, carbon nanotubes, again, so we're talking about nanotubes, were used to cloak an object that was submerged in water. And when an electrical current was passed through it, these objects then turned the structure invisible. So I mentioned to you earlier that there are a lot of science jobs currently in Australia that are under demand. This means that they need people in these positions. I've given you a list of some of them that are currently in demand. So realistically, these are areas that if you have an interest in, it's a really good idea to consider as a career. If you want to have a look at the entire range of science options that are currently in demand for careers, have a look at the web link that's listed there below. So let's have a brief look at some of them here. Maths and computer science. The jobs that are currently in demand include computer programming and computer software and software design, even database administration, and all of the science and maths teachers positions, they are currently in demand. So if you have any interest in being a teacher yourself, all of these are areas where we currently have a demand for this career. Another thing that interestingly is in demand is a remote sensing technologist. So some things that you might not have thought of that are also related to, I guess, in particular computer science would be a multimedia artist or an animator. So here you can produce animated cartoons in the digital medium. Or you could be an artificial intelligence scientist. So these are the people who are working with cognitive scientists and other psychologists to try and work out how we can make robots think the way that humans do. For physics, if you're interested in the physical sciences at all, electricians and chemistry and physics teachers are currently in great demand. But there are some other jobs that are potentially open to you if you study physics. Some of the more exciting ones could be an astronomer or a pilot. So even a military pilot, as you can see in the picture on the bottom right-hand corner. Even people who work in the film industry, so people who are involved in editing the films, they also have a background in science. So life sciences and human biology in the health area opens up a lot of potential careers. And as you can see, there is a very large list of jobs that are currently in demand in Australia. So many potential careers open in this life sciences area. Some you might not have thought of could include animal breeding, studying epidemiology or the way that diseases are transmitted through populations. Entomology, that's the study of insects, and considering there's supposed to be more insects on the planet than all the other animals combined, this is obviously an area that's not going to be discovered entirely in any short space of time. You could even consider something like being a technology writer or a science writer. So even things like science textbooks and the way that they are laid out. It always helps if you have a science background to obtain these sorts of positions. If you're more interested in the outdoors and the earth and environmental type of sciences and geology, geographers and climate change analysts, these are jobs that are still currently in demand. But there is a whole wide range of other jobs that can open up to you if you've got a background in environmental sciences. For example, a brewery. You need to have a background in science to be able to do this successfully on a large scale. Again, you could be a marine biologist, especially if you enjoy scuba diving. You can actually incorporate one of your hobbies with your work, and that would be a great thing to do. Park rangers also need to have a background in science to help them understand the ecosystems that they're working with and trying to preserve. Even soil scientists or surveyors, these are other positions that you could consider that need a background in science. If you are interested more in the social sciences, then the marriage and family therapist positions are still currently under demand. We don't have enough of these therapists for the supply. Even a patent lawyer. So patent lawyers in the area of science and medicine, it's very helpful for them to have this scientific background. So some people who go into to be a patent lawyer will do a double degree where they combine science and law together. Other things that you could do is to be a psychologist, and quite often cognitive behavioural therapists and neuroscientists get to work with other exciting scientists, computer scientists, for example, in creating artificial intelligence. Sociologists, or again, science or technical writers, all of these things are open to you when you have a basis or background in science. There are many, many, many engineering jobs. As you can see, for engineering, there is a very, very large list there where we need people. These are currently in high demand. Another added bonus with engineering is that these jobs always start off with a really high salary. So another added bonus too if you have an interest in that area. So the ones that are currently in demand is a high range. Automotive engineers, all the way through to wind energy engineers and solar energy engineers. So we are very, very interested as a population in the world to try and find ways that are going to provide energy for an ever-growing population but not cause pollution in our environment. You could even work in a hydroelectric plant, or again, you could be a landscape architect. So again, many things are open to you by studying science. One other area I'd just like to have a brief look at, genetics and genomics. So this is an area which is currently blooming and blossoming because of the amount of information about species DNA sequences that are going onto the database. So bioinformatics is a really growing area. So if you're interested in combining your interest in how the human body functions with your interest in computers, bioinformatics is probably an ideal opportunity for you to look at. Cytogenetics is looking at the study of cells. And again, this is an area where we do not have enough people currently qualified to meet the demand. Other things that you could consider that could be potentially exciting would be to be a forensic scientist. And another thing that is very important, because more and more people these days are aware that they may carry potentially dangerous genes, and they will see a genetic counsellor before a couple wishes to have children. So genetic counsellors are also a job that you could consider. So that's all of my presentation for the moment. I've got a list of resources there if you are interested in looking further at careers in science, and there is a whole lot of information there on the web that's very, very easy for you to see. I recommend, if you're going to start off, if you're interested, start off by looking at the Science Buddies, the www.sciencebuddies reference, because that's a really good starting point to point you in various ways to places to find out more information about your particular interest. Thanks everybody, and I hope to see some of you joining science and becoming scientists and research scientists. Thank you.